Today we're going to be using Onshape as a tool to create laser cut parts. Particularly if you're making a box or something, Onshape can use a feature script to help you create them parts, and it is quite simple to do, and it's really easy, and it will save you a lot of time. So on the tutorial, hopefully you can see that when I left click with the mouse, we should get a red dot. So that's just going to help you to understand when we're clicking on things, you should see a red dot that kind of ripples, and anything that is a right mouse button should be a blue click. So we're just blue clicking, right clicking. We can right click and move our page around like that if we need to on the screen. And we can always go over to the little box here and click isometric to put it back into the middle there. Just a bit of housekeeping with Onshape. Across the top here, as our mouth goes across, is your ribbon or your toolbar with all the features and things that you're going to be using. Down the side, we have our history panel where everything we're doing Onshape will appear as history, and you can pull back and forwards through that and check back on your designs. Your separate parts will appear here. And then down the bottom, you've got any files that are actually open in it. So there's an assembly drawing, there's the assembly that I've done, and parts all there. So what you need to do is you need to make sure you've got the custom features installed. So you type in what it wants. So the one we want is called laser joint. And then we'll type that in there correctly. We'll search for that, and you'll get the FeatureScripts appear. So laser joint, it's that one. When it appears, what will happen is you'll see it up here. So mine's already installed, and the other one you're going to want to install is something called Auto Layouts. And what Auto Layout does is once we've created the laser cut parts, it will lay them all flat, ready to be exported as a DXF or a file for your laser cutter. So all I'm going to do on this tutorial is keep it nice and simple, and we're going to just create a cube, just a small 50 by 50 millimeter cube. We could do 100. 100 actually might be better because it would give us a few more joints that we can add to it. So we're going to start with our sketch, and we're going to click on the top surface like that. And then what I like to do is press N on the keyboard. So N's a shortcut key, and it's going to spin round in front of us. So I'm going to go along to my top here, click the arrow, and select center point rectangle. Click once to start drawing, and drag it out. And immediately, if I just type in 100 and don't press anything, it will change to 100, and the next size will come up. So I've now got a fully dimensioned cube at 100. So we can then press the tick. And from there we can either use the cursor keys. So if I use, that's just me pressing up on the cursor key, left and right, or we can use the right mouse button there to position this round. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on extrude. The part we want to extrude, the faces, is going to be sketch 1, and the depth is going to be 100. And we press the tick, and we will just press isometric to put it into our screen there. So it's in the middle of the screen now. Now what we're going to do now is we're going to thicken each side of this, because we want to create 4 or 5, 6 separate parts. We're going to create 5. We're going to leave the lid off of this one. So what I'm going to do is going along my top here until we find the one that's called Thicken. And what that's going to do is allow us to create our part. So Thicken's just there. So create, so we're going to click on Thicken, and I'm going to click that plane. Now at the moment you'll see it's gone 5 millimeters larger. So if I click the opposite direction, it will now go 5 millimeters inside. I'm going to be using 6mm ply, so I'm going to change it to 6 millimeters, and I'm going to do it as a new part. So now you'll see part 2 has appeared down here. So that's perfect now. So we click part 2, and we're going to do the same on the other sides. So there's our second one. I can just use the cursor key to spin this round. So thicken, tick, 6, opposite direction. Just checking it's there. Making sure it's in new parts. The new parts are very important in this. If you don't do that part, it won't work. 6, new, tick. So that's all the 4 parts there. The last one I'm going to do is just the base for this one. So thicken, click the base, 6mm, opposite direction, new. Now, that gives us all the parts we're going to need, but at the moment you've still got this center part. So if I go to part 1 and press delete part, all the other parts remain, and you can see you've got that multicolored box there spinning it around, but we've got all the parts. Now this is where it gets clever. This is where we can use the custom script to do the work for us. So when you spent hours before checking all the lines light up and everything, we can do it as a script. So we press laser joints and select parts to join. So we want to do part 2 to part 5 and part 1 in this case because we've deleted. So we select all of them, and now you've got some decisions to make. So minimum pan width 5, maximum pan width 20, so that's saying how big your tabs are going to be. Allowance, so by default it's adding a 0.1mm to the faces within the joint, so there's a little bit of tolerance there of that. And we can say that we want 4 pins, we can change it to 6, we can change it to 5, but basically once you've done it you press OK, and there on the screen is your laser cut part, all made up in 3D, ready to go. Now this is where the second custom feature comes in and is just as important. If I go up to auto layout, thickness of the material, I need to change that to 6mm. Now the cut sheet width, this is your basically the size of your laser cutter. So in school we've got a 900 by 600. We can put in a 2mm spacing, we can take that down to 1mm, and you can see there, because I've done 900 by 600, it's done it in one long line. If I had a smaller bed, or if I wanted to do it on a more compact piece, we could do that 250 by 250, and it would work it out how best to put it on there. Okay, but 900 by 600. And you can see there, we've now got our laser cut parts all laid out. Now, you're probably thinking, well, what happens if I want to put a divide in the middle of it? That's fine. If I just delete my auto layout, I'm just going to go above to part 1, and I'm just going to do another sketch on that top surface. So we press N, and all I'm going to do a corner rectangle, or we can do a center point rectangle from the middle there out to the edge. Now it's important that the thickness there has to be 6, and that's 100. So we can tick that in, we can see it's there. And with this piece we're doing extrude of sketch 2. New part is important, and we're going to go down to up to next face, and I'm going to click the bottom face of that. So what that means is on the bottom here it's not going into the base. I don't want any holes in this base piece. Okay, so we're going to press tick there. You can now see it's divided up. I'll do exactly the same thing again. The number of pins I'll change to 4 this time, and when we press tick and select all our parts first of all, that would help, you can say it's automatically working out. If I want to go to 6 pins, it works it out. If I want to go to 3, it works this out. We press our tick, and now we've got everything there lined up, and it's just a case of going to auto layouts. We've got our dimensions there. We can then go and print that out. If I switched it around the other way and did 600 by 900, we get it all in one long line. We press the tick, and that's good to go. So once we've got all our parts laid out, the easiest thing to do is to actually do this as an assembly. So we're going to go to the Assembly tab. We're going to go to Insert, the Part Studio. So that's all the parts we want them to come in there. And then what we can do with the Part Studio is press tick. They're all laid out there. Assembly 1. Create drawing of Assembly 1. Now you could do no views, or you can do all 4 views, depending on what you want. For ease, I'm going to show you the all 4 views projection. So this will load up. If you don't want the views, we can just delete them. So I don't need that one. I don't need that one. I don't need that one. The main view we want is this one. So I've just double clicked on it. And if you know the scale, when you add it in, you can upscale it. If you're unsure, you can go to 1:1. Now, obviously, that's larger than a drawing, but as most of us know, when we import something in as a DFX, etc. So to export that, all we do is go down to drawing, we right-click export. Always use the oldest version, particularly if you're importing into 2D design or something, or 3D design. But we can import that in, so we press export. You can then load that into your software, and that will save you a lot of time and hassle and effort when it comes to creating laser cut boxes. I really hope that's helpful. And of course, this was just a simple box. If you change the shapes, the angles, as long as they are assembled as separate parts and created as separate parts, it will be really, really easy to do.